All right, good evening, everybody. It's the show that you love every night, Social Distancing at the Chamber, or alternatively called Happy Hour with Hammer. As always, Glenn Hammer. Special guest tonight, Glenn, Chief Policy Honcho at the U.S. Chamber, Neil Bradley. Neil, welcome. Thanks for doing this.
Well, thanks for having me. I love joining the Hammer Happy Hour.
What we do every night is we talk about the headlines of the day. You've been on conference call and video call after another. It's nonstop for you. Glenn, let's talk CARES Act with Neil. Go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, it's a treat to have Neil on the show because a quarter century ago, he knows where I'm going to go with this. There were we're talking, Tom Cruise type staffers. It was Ari Fleischer, Paul Ryan, and Neil Bradley.
I don't know where I went wrong.
Yeah. I was just a schmo running around the hills somewhere. But now it's Neil Bradley's time. And I just want to say, Neil, on behalf of the entire business community, thank you for your efforts.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Glenn, for everything you're doing.
The CARES Act, $2.2 trillion bill. You maybe just dig right in how this is good for business and some of the things that our members and other businesses should be looking at.
Sure. Let me start and spend by a minute talking about why it's good for families and why it's good for those who are caught up individually in this cessation of economic activity. First, for American families, we're going to get rebates, checks cut by the federal government into our checking accounts, $1,200 for an individual, $2,400 for a married couple filing jointly, plus another $500 per child. This is money that's coming in because of all the problems that so many Americans are facing today. Last week we saw a record number of claims for unemployment insurance. That's something none of us ever want to see. But we understand that during this period, that's going to happen to some individuals. And this bill includes robust support for individuals who find themselves unemployed, including additional support on top of their weekly unemployment allowance. But at the end of the day, there's no check from the government that's going to make up for getting our employers back open and making sure that they can continue to support their employees. And so this bill does a number of things to support employers, whether you're that small business, that independent contractor, entrepreneur, sole proprietor, or even the bigger companies in America who also are suffering as a result of this stop in commerce. For those independent contractors and small businesses, there's $350 billion in loans to help you cover your payroll, whether that's what you're paying your employees as a small business with fewer than 500 employees, or what you're paying yourself as an independent contractor, what you're earning yourself, I should say, as an independent contractor. Importantly, if that money is used over the next 8 weeks after you get the loan, that loan's forgiven by the federal government to the extent that you kept your number of employees intact and you didn't cut their wages. That's going to avoid any debt overhang for America's small businesses, which is really important. For midsize and larger companies, we're borrowing some pages from past fiscal crises and financial crises. And that includes creating facilities, mainly through the Federal Reserve, so that they can help support America's banks, who are in turn going to help support America's businesses. And if we do those kind of things, we're talking about a tremendous level of support coming out of the federal government and the Federal Reserve to help businesses of all sizes across all industries.
Neil, earlier today, you did a great call on the Paycheck Protection Plan and some of the other loans available from the Small Business Association. Could you dig into a little bit, the Paycheck Protection Plan? It's called a loan, but it is really a grant for about 2 months worth of economic activity for many of our small businesses.
That's exactly right. So you're able to borrow an amount that's equal to 2.5 times your average monthly payroll costs. And that includes what you pay your employees, but also the cost of providing them health care, for example. So you borrow up to that amount. And then for the next 8 weeks, you keep track of, are you paying your employees, including their health care costs? Are you paying the rent on your store where you operate? If you have a mortgage on it and you're paying your interest on that mortgage, are you paying that? Are you paying your utilities? The things that businesses have to do to be open. And at the end of that 8 weeks, you tally up all those dollars that you spent, And then you get to get loan forgiveness in that amount with a small caveat. It's reduced to the extent that you reduced your employee headcount. So this is really designed by Congress to do two things: to help small businesses weather this storm, and it helps small businesses do what every single one of them tells me they want to do, which is support their employees as they weather this storm.
And one of the things that we love is for some of the hardest hit industries like hotel and restaurants, there's this, I believe, a special rule in there where it's not the
That's
total
right.
number.
That's right. You know, one of the problems we faced in the past with a lot of hotels and restaurants, right, is they're maybe they're franchisees, they're part of a chain. And as a result of that, the employees at your location are added to the employees in another location, and you can't qualify. And this particular program, we say, no, we're just going to look at your location, that hotel, that restaurant. And as long as you have less than 500, you're good to go. Support your employees.
Neil.
I'm sorry, Garrick. How easy is it to get this? What does this small business need to do, and how soon?
Well, so Treasury Secretary Mnuchin came out this morning and said loans are going to be available on Friday. They've tried to make it as easy as possible. So the normal collateral requirements, the personal guarantees, the proof that you tried to get a loan somewhere else, all that's out the window. You don't have to do any of that stuff. So, you know, you got to be in business. You got to prove that you're not a fraudster, that you were in business before we ever heard of the coronavirus. You're going to have to substantiate how much you can borrow. You're going to have to self-attest. Hey, we need this money. We're hurting because of the coronavirus. And, you know, a few other simple things like that. And it should be fairly easy to get the loan. One of the things we're really looking forward to coming out of the Treasury Department is a designation of who can make these loans. At the U.S. Chamber, we're really pushing them. We want as many lenders as possible. In my ideal world, whoever those small businesses are in Arizona, whoever they normally go to for their checking, their business checking account, their loans, they're going to go to the same banker to get this program. We want to make it super easy. I would love for people to walk in the front door of a bank on Friday morning, apply for a loan, and get it by the end of the day, so they're paying their employees come Monday.
And you mentioned in a previous call that there may even be possibly some fintech companies may get engaged in this.
That's exactly right. I think we could have some fintechs. I think there's going to be lots of options. You know, normally the government makes things super hard. For once, they're trying to make things really easy, because I even think they realize businesses are on the brink, and people are, you know this, Glenn, your members are sitting there, they're trying to figure out right now, right? So can I get assistance? When is it coming? How much? If I can't get it, what am I going to do with my employees that I love and I care about, who are like family in many cases to me, right? And so Congress didn't want people waiting around for 3 weeks for some bureaucrat to decide some parameters here. They're really trying to do the right thing and get this money out to help small businesses.
Garrick, I believe you had a question.
Yeah, Neil, this is really encouraging, because we have members who would say, I've never worked with the SBA. I don't know who an SBA lender is. I think your point's an important one. We're trying to widen the network of potential lenders here.
That's right. I mean, there are some other programs that you can go to that are at the SBA that you could apply for today, for example. They tend not to, you might be able to borrow more money there, but there might not be loan forgiveness tied to it, for example. And so, you know, small businesses are going to want to think through, as long as you're not borrowing money for the same purpose twice. Yeah. That tends to be a no-no. Then you can avail yourselves of these of multiple of these programs. But the important ones that we think have the most promise for small businesses are the ones that are going to go through their normal lenders.
Right. And this is all driven by a belief at the U.S. Chamber that no family should go bankrupt as a result of this virus, and no business should go under.
That's exactly right. That has been since we started having this conversation. It feels like an eternity ago, but I think it was about 3 weeks ago. We laid out those two principles, and we said assistants should follow that model, and we shouldn't discriminate against employers based on their size or based on their industry. Everybody needs help. Let's give them access to this help. Because, by the way, no employer did anything wrong here. No family did anything wrong here, right? This is all happening to us. And if we can bridge this period, and that's what it's about. It's about bridging this period so that we can reopen commerce and get people back to work. Remember where we were in January? We were talking about unemployment that was at a lower level than at any time in any of the three of our lifetimes. We were talking about 3% wage growth, first time in a decade. We can get back to that. We just need a bridge to get there.
Glenn Spencer hosted a call this morning that had some very useful information on unemployment insurance, paid and family sick leave. Can you maybe talk a little bit about how that all plays into this? And one of the things that I thought was interesting about the unemployment insurance is that it may even be able to be used for employers that need to furlough employees, keeping that connection. So maybe if you could talk a little bit about those efforts as well, please.
Yeah, when we normally think about unemployment insurance, you've lost your job, the location is closed, and our question is, are you willing to go look for work somewhere else? That's not the situation we're in, right? We have employers who want to have you working. You want to be working. We just have this darn virus that's keeping all of us, kind of sequestered here, right? And so we've changed the rules, and the rules say, listen, if you're not available because your employer's closed or you've been furloughed because of this downturn, that's fine. We're going to help you out with unemployment insurance. We have an expectation, though, when your employer reopens, go back to work. And that's what the law says. You have this available to you so long as you can't return to work. But when you can, we want you returning to work. So there's some important benefits there on the unemployment side. I think designed as a responsible way as you can have in this pretty unique circumstance.
I mean, about $600 extra a week. So it definitely softens the blow for, as you say, no fault of any employee that we're in this situation, obviously. So
that's right. That's exactly right. Some of the paid leave provisions that was done in what's called the Phase 2 bill. Normally we're all talking about the problems with unfunded mandates out of Washington. For the first time ever, I'm just recharging on my juice here. I don't want to run out of power mid conversation. For the first time ever here, we have a funded mandate out of Washington. So for employers with fewer than 500 paid sick and family leave, but the federal government's going to reimburse employers for the cost of that.
No, that's great.
Neil, the CARES Act, you mentioned this is in phases. The CARES Act, that's phase 3. Should Arizonans and Americans anticipate a phase 4?
Probably, but not anytime soon, right? In terms of soon of like we've expected things in the past couple of weeks, right? So Congress is at home for about the next month. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, I think they're going to stay at home and tend to talk to their constituents, figure out how we implement this Phase 3 bill, make sure we're taking care of those small businesses. And then we're going to have to assess where we're at, right? Are we closed for longer? Do we need more assistance? Have we reopened, but we're having a hit to aggregate demand and we need to help that? Or are we just figuring out the areas of the country where maybe farther behind because of where the virus has hit them, and we're helping some people longer and we're moving everyone else back to normal business? And we're just not going to know till we get a little closer to that.
Neil, on the state level, I just wanted to quickly touch on essential services. The U.S. Chamber put out some very important guidance there. I look at the CARES Act as sort of the big enchilada on the federal side, but on the state level, it's governor by governor really determining what stays open and what doesn't. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of that effort?
Yeah, we're all used to natural disasters, wildfires, maybe out in Arizona. I'm from Oklahoma, tornadoes, and you have a short-term national emergency, and you designate essential personnel. This is a little different, right? I mean, food delivery folks have become essential personnel. Healthcare providers are, of course, essential personnel. We have lots of folks who are in transportation and logistics who are essential personnel. And so we worked with the Department of Homeland Security to provide some guidance to help governors figure out essential personnel. And what we're encouraging is every state's different. You want to adapt, but you don't want to close down things unnecessarily. We got to stop the spread, but we're not going to be able to maintain social distancing, if people can't get deliveries, if you can't have the grocery stores, and so there's some things that we have to do that are a little different than most natural disasters.
That's great. Neil, we know you are a busy man. We really appreciate you doing this tonight. Glenn, you want to take us home?
Neil, we have more viewers now than Wayne's World, so this is big time.
Party on. Excellent.
Party on, party on. Where could our viewers get the latest and greatest information from the U.S. Chamber?
uschamber.com. And all those things I talked about at the top, we got summaries there. We got guides for you to help you figure it out. I know the Arizona Chamber, you got a ton of stuff on your website available to your members. So hit up both of us and you'll find all the information that you need.
Neil Bradley, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks,
For
Neil.
having me. Have a great evening. And I enjoyed the Hammer Time Happy Hour.
Thanks, Neil.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.